Welcome to part 2 of this series where we're looking at the repair and restoration of the Stella ST234A radio, and I'll just keep pushing on with the repairs and just see how far I can get. Okay, I wanted to revisit the testing of this radio. I'm not really sure about the position of this wave selector switch. What I've done this time, I've actually connected a signal generator to the gram input. And there's really no indication of what the switch does apart from a very obscure graphic on the dial plate. This indicates to me that the first position here is VHF, the second position is medium wave, third position is long wave, and then the fourth position is the gram input. So let's just see what we got when we turn the volume up. Now that's interesting, because even in what I believe to be the VHF position, I'm getting some leakage from the signal generator. So I'm not sure if that's supposed to be as it is, but let's just see if we can get any channels. So to me that's not right, but we're definitely not getting any stations coming through on VHF. Okay, second position is medium wave. Just turn that down a bit. This is medium wave.
Lewis Hamilton does look more.
And that's definitely medium wave because that is Talk Sport.
As a driver, how much confidence and motivation does
So that's good.
a rough opening?
I'm still getting some leakage of the signal generator coming in there. Let's go to long wave. Not expecting any stations here. No. And the last one is the gram input. So even with the volume right down, I'm getting some sound. But actually that's quite loud. So the gram's working, but I'm getting volume on all the wave bands, and when the volume is controlled is right down. So okay, I'm happy now, understand the function of the radio. It's clear there's a little bit more work to do, but hey, I'm going to go through the process now of checking out the capacitors and changing the ones that are faulty. I've taken the main filter reservoir capacitor out. It's actually dual 50 microfarad, 50 microfarad, 250 volts working DC capacitor. The reason I changed that or took it out for the time being is one side seems to be okay for capacitance, but it's fairly leaky. It's got fairly high leakage current. The other side is really shot for capacitance, and it's got very high leakage. So that's pretty much gone, really. These old capacitors, 70-year-old capacitors, tend to dry up inside and hence become quite leaky in terms of having a high leakage current, and that's a problem. So that needs to be changed. So I'm changing it with these two modern replacements. These are 47 microfarad capacitors, and I've kind of just made a little plate for them to sit on. It's not been soldered in yet because this allows me to get around the top here for this multi-capacitor in particular. I want to check that out while the main filter capacitors are out, and I've checked the components underneath. They're all okay, well within specifications, so I'll be in a position to solder this replacement in fairly soon. I'll be able to just test the radio again. Right, this is the main filter capacitor changed, and I made this little bus arrangement here to connect the components into. It's just giving me a little bit more space to work with. I'm quite pleased with that. It's actually very rock solid. We do have this problem though. This switch contact has come adrift, and I don't know quite where that goes. Normally I record the state of the radio with photographs before I start, and I haven't quite got this switch documented properly. So I've got a clue as to where this resides. It's it's going to be on switch 1, and I've got a good idea where it might be. I wonder just if that was adrift before and making contact with another part of the switch, because that might account for the mixing of the signals between the gram and the radio. So that's what I'm thinking. Although this is a Philips 353 chassis inside the Stella ST234A radio, the actual layout is actually different compared to the layout of the 353, which is annoying because the schematic doesn't quite match. There are a few differences between the schematics, or shall I say the circuit setup here on the Philips 353 radio schematic. So what I'm going to have to do is reverse engineer this switch, make a note of all the contacts, where the wires go, what connections, what components are connected to, and compare that to the schematic. The switches there are documented, but not very well. So I'm just going to have to go the extra mile and get everything written down and then compare. And that should give me an idea of where that contact actually sits. I should be able to get it back in. When I'm confident it's correct, I'll probably just super glue that just to reinforce that in. So that's where I'm at. So I think what I'll do, I'll just mask that off installation wise, and I need to then just power on the radio now, just to make sure the main filter capacitor is actually working. So it'd be good to see if there's any changes with that switch disconnected. Right, so that's powered on safely, and what I've noticed is I gave the FM antenna a really good click and a push in, and I've actually got
Sounds will bring you this delightful concert in his show this evening. I'm boring, and I'm like, you're living your life. Go and live a life.
We've actually got some FM there, so that's working now, and I think it's just pushing the aerial in properly, to be honest. What's interesting is
it's AI. Well, there's clearly a photo of
the mixing from the signal generator has gone now, so that may have been that switch contact, and we need to sort that out. Also, as well, just with one capacitor across the output transformer and the main filter capacitors, the radio has come a lot louder. So let's just go through the bands. So that's the medium wave.
From Marcus very, very shortly. What we'll also be doing very shortly is bringing you the draw for the semi-finals. And look, we keep saying it, Alex, because it's true, and it's true.
That's a lot louder than what it was. Then we've got long wave. Again, no mix in there. And I'll just turn that down a bit because the signal generator is loud. So no mixing, everything's working. So what does that switch contact do? It's really interesting because the radio is perfectly fine as it is. So I do need to get to the bottom of that particular problem. But this is definitely real progress. Mixing's gone, FM's working, and the radio's a lot louder. There are a few other molded caps to change and a couple of electrolytics. I will change those. But I really want to get to the bottom of that switch. That's my next task. Right, I've come down to try and work out where this switch connection needs to go. This is the floating switch connection. So tracing this back, I've got this 100k ohm resistor going to the chassis, and I've got this 10 meg resistor going to grid 2 V4. So I couldn't find it on the schematic. And the reason is I've got this modification. So look at this note here. So on later sets, the circuit is modified as follows. Connection from cathode V4 to switch 2B is deleted. Resistor 10 meg ohm is connected to grid 2 of V4 and to the chassis via 100k ohm resistor. The junction between the two resistors connects to the automatic volume control line via extra contacts on switch 1B, and that's when it's floating. So a little bit frustrating because I haven't updated or made an amendment to the schematic to show exactly where that connection is located on switch 1B. It also explains why it probably is working, because it is a modification and doesn't exist in the current or this version of the schematic. So I could actually take the radio back to what it was. This R17 is now the 100k ohm resistor. This was a 56 kilo ohm resistor, so I could just move it back and leave the contact floating. But I will try to actually get the switch connected. So how do I work out where this is connected? I've got a good idea from my original photograph that it was somewhere around here. And actually, when I looked underneath this switch with some good quality light, you could see the clean bit of the switch where the contact was. It's obvious that's where it should be. To get extra confirmation, I did look out on the internet, because there's quite a few restorations of the Philips 353 chassis. And indeed, I found a video which was confirming that connection is on this point here. So this modification actually takes effect when the pickup is engaged, the gram input. So that's why the radio is working, because actually that doesn't connect to anything when the radio is on. It's just for the pickup. So I'm quite happy to connect that back in, and I'll probably just secure it with some super glue and give the radio a good test. Okay, I've put the switch contact back in. I've cemented that in with some super glue, really, and it looks pretty rock solid. So I just want to test the radio, make sure there's no smoke. So that's the VHF. That's working. This is medium wave, I believe. Yeah, it's medium wave. Wrong wave, I'm not expecting anything there. And just make sure the gram input's working. There we go. So that's all good. And there's no leaking between the switch settings like there was at the start. So that's all looking good. So I'm just going to carry on now with the recapping. That's the recapping done. Got these nice little yellow polypropylene capacitors in there. There's one here as well. Not too much work to do, just a couple of electrolytics as well on the two which are on the top of the chassis. In terms of the ones I changed, the black molded capacitors were definitely leaky, especially the two 15 nanofarad capacitors. They were really out, so I'm glad I changed all those. I won't need to visit that problem again. So I'm happy with that. Let's just give the radio a test. Let's give the radio a test. It's off dim bulb now, so I've got it on the FM. And that's actually working very well. That's a lot of volume on the FM. I'm just going to switch to medium wave now. I'm not getting anything at the moment. No, that's gone really quiet.
He's going to pull out.
That's interesting. I think there's a dodgy connection somewhere. It just clicked in, so I need to have a look at that. It might be on the switch.
To the starting lineup of Saka, it feels like Arsenal have been able to get the minute.
The other thing to note is the actual volume has gone down on the AM, and I was testing as I went along actually, and that's volume reduced when I changed the 15 or one of the 15 nanofarad capacitors at the end of the recapping.
But on the flip side, his opponent, David.
To my ears, though, the volume is not too bad. Question is, do I address that? I think I will. And that may be just an alignment issue because it's definitely loud on the FM. So all the amplification stages are working. There's obviously something in the AM path that's gone awry. Could it do more damage by doing the AM alignment than what I achieve in terms of trying to fix the issue? Quite possibly, because looking at the cores of those coils, they look fairly rigid in there. I'm not sure if they're going to move, so that's something I need to consider. I'm going to use the AM a lot. And actually, the volume's not too bad in there at all. I think before I look at any alignment, I will go and check all the resistors out, make sure those are all in tolerance, and that might address the issue. So that's the next thing to do, really. What I would like to do now is the IF alignment, just to try and bring the volume up on the AM a little bit. What I have done, I've gone through the radio to check the resistors, and they're all within tolerance. There's just one at the top end of tolerance, but I still left that in. And I've tidied up the mains lead, connected the earth properly, so I'm happy with that. Now there's three parts to the IF alignment on the AM, and it's just the first part I want to do, which is really making sure the IF amplification is tuned optimally. To do that, there's 4 IF cans that need to be adjusted. They're here, and it's in the order of S33, S32, S27, S26. So I took a tip from Don's old radio club or Don's old radio shed, and that is to just mark off which ones we're going to do first. So number 33 is this one. So that's the first one. Then we've got 32, which is that one. And then we've got 27, which is here. That's the third one. And then I've got one here. That's the fourth. That's the S26. I've got to find a screwdriver, really, which is fine enough to go into these nipples, really. I'm really a bit worried about those. So hopefully these cutters will turn easily. If they're not, I'm just going to leave it, as the volume is not too bad. The other part of the IF alignment is really focused on the RF stage, and that's injecting signal into the antenna. I'm probably not going to do that. I'm certainly not going to do the RF alignment. There's only just one station on the AM now, so it's probably a waste of effort and waste of time doing that. So next, I'm going to look at what we need to do to get the signal into the IF stages to do the alignment. Okay, so I've got a 470 kilohertz AM modulated signal. It's modulated with a 1 kilohertz tone, and that is connected to the grid, the signal grid of B3, and that's via a 47 nanofarad capacitor. You can see that's actually coming through. You might be able to hear it. So I'm going to do the AM just using my ear, really. That's as per the procedure. So I'm going to go to the first can. I've only got this screwdriver that works, so let's just see if I can make this louder. My eyes aren't that good. Quieter. That's gone quieter. That's just coming louder now. Coming louder. 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 Quieter. Go to the next coil. That's about the loudest port there. Something's happened to this first coil. I'll have to have a look at that. It looks like the core's actually dropped down there, so I'll have a good look at that. So what happened there then? Well, when I tried to adjust that first core, that's in S32, I guess this collar around this plastic tubing disintegrated, and I think that puts pressure, that collar puts pressure on the plastic tube so that the thread associated with the core binds against it, and that's how the adjustment's done. When that disintegrated, I could see looking at it, the tube is kind of expanded a little bit, and what happened is the core just dropped to the bottom of the coil. If you look at the core, you can see at the bottom there's the ferrite bit, and it's attached to a brass thread. So what my plan is, and I know that that thread actually sticks out quite a lot, so I'm going to just attach that to the end of the screwdriver, and I'll adjust the core manually, just sliding it, and I'll probably use some hot glue to keep it in place once I get the optimum volume. All the other coils have been adjusted, so I'm confident when I get this one adjusted to the correct position, it's going to be the optimal IF alignment. Okay, let's have a go. So I've got my glue gun ready, and there's a tone coming through. You might not hear it. Right, I think that's the loudest I'm going to get it. So let that set. Hopefully that's going to hold the core. Right, what I'll do, I'll let that set and I'll just snip that off. I'm not going to force it, and I'll just go around with a little bit more glue just to make sure it's secured in. Right, let's see if that's worked. That's on TalkSport.
See some rank daily for you in terms of supporting Villa.
Yeah, that's a lot louder. I think that's been successful. So it's so loud it is distorting again. So I think that's done the job. Hopefully that'll stay in place and not drop in. But if I do, I can just fish it out again and try something else. But I think fundamentally that's the radio electrically done. Just got to tidy up a few things, maybe clean the pots, and then I'll turn my focus to the case. So that's the end of part 2, and in part 3 I'll get on with the servicing of the case and doing the cosmetics and putting the radio back together. If you do like these videos, then please do subscribe, it really helps me, and I'll catch you with the next video.